All right, hey guys, so I get asked a lot about internally geared hubs. And this bike has an internally geared hub, except I got it covered up and there's not really much to see. But I have an internally geared hub on this bike and I wanted to talk about it. A lot of people ask me about it, and I've put about 1,500 miles on this IGH so far, and I want to talk to you about pros and cons and my overall experience with it. If you're new to the channel, I'm Johnny Nerd Out. I professionally build e-bikes, repair them, customize them, make them better. So yeah, if you like this and you like other stuff, check out my other videos. Right off the bat, I have the Sturmey Archer 5-speed. It's the RX RK5. So far I like it. I do like it. There's pros and cons. So the pros are you get to use a single speed chain, which is heavier duty. It's stronger, which means you're not breaking chains. I've not broken this chain once, and I don't envision breaking it. The other thing is, as you can see here, the chain line is perfect. Like you're always in that perfect gear, which means it's the most efficient. You don't have any power loss. You know, like when you have a chain here and it's gotta move and it's off, that's not efficient. You're losing some efficiency through there because it's gotta bend. But when it's straight on, you're losing the least amount of power. It's the most efficient if you have a dead on chain line. So for those reasons, man, that's great. That's what I wanted. I did not want to risk breaking chains because, you know, with a mid-drive, you're putting out almost 1,700 watts, over 1,700 watts with this at peak. And yeah, you could break a chain if you're not in the right gear. So I didn't want that. And I've never broken a chain, never had any chain issues at all with this thing. The other cool thing about this is you could shift while you're at a stop. So if you're riding fast and you got to brake hard and you don't have time to downshift while you're doing it, you might be in 5th gear when you're at a stop, and then when you're ready to take off, you just pop it right into 1st and you're ready to go. You're in the right gear. Where, you know, with a standard bike, you gotta pedal slow and shift and it's crank through those gears. It's a small thing, not a big thing, but it is a nice little benefit. I think those are the benefits. Those are the glaring benefits, at least, are reliability, being stress-free about chain braking, essentially, and being able to shift when you want. The cons of this are it's a little bit harder to adjust and to keep it maintenanced. And I know some people are like, no, it's not. And it is and it isn't, because they give you these little lines to line them up, and you just adjust it with your barrel adjuster. As your cable starts to stretch, you're gonna have to adjust it just like any bike. And this one gives you a little line to keep it lined up with, so it's not that hard. But if you have to do a major adjustment, it's a pain to pull the tensioner out and then pull this out and then get it back in. And actually I did that and I broke off the little plastic thing that holds in the cable. So it's broken, but it's still holding it right now. I don't know how long that's gonna hold it for, but I need to replace it. And if I can't find a replacement part for it, I may have to go back to a standard cassette. So major like adjustments are kind of a pain on this. Minor adjustments, not a big deal. Initial install, if this is your first foray into an internally geared hub, be prepared to watch a lot of YouTube videos on installs, on how to get this thing dialed in and lined up. But if you've done it a few times, like it's not that big of a deal. Another con is you're gonna get less of a gear ratio. They do it, I think this is 25% gear ratio. So with this one, I get a 225% gear ratio, which is almost half of what I would have gotten if I just kept it normally. So even like when I'm riding, like first gear is not very low. First gear is not a very low gear. I know that I could put a bigger cog in the rear or a smaller chainring up front, but then I'm losing a top speed, and already my top speed it's perfect. I'm pedaling at like 28 miles an hour and before I start just winding out. And that's about how fast I need to go. I don't need to go over 30 miles an hour, very rarely. I'm never like in a hurry or in a rush. So I feel like my top speed is fine, but if I geared down, then I'm losing top speed, which I may do because I like to have that torque a little bit better. I'd like to have a little bit better climbing. But anyways, with a 5-speed, your gear ratio is gonna be less. So just keep that in mind if you're gonna get an internally geared hub. Unless you get a 7-speed or an 8-speed, then you get a wider gear ratio. With this 5-speed, you're only gonna get, I think it's a 225%. So the ratio isn't as big, but with this 5-speed, it's heavy duty. Like this is, I haven't had any issues with this thing putting 1700 watts to it. I try not to do that very often, but if you put like a Alfine or something, like even like an 8-speed of this, I think they're not meant to be, I think they're a little bit more delicate on the innards. So you have a risk of stripping out those gears in there. So just be careful with that unless you're just really diligent on how you ride. But yeah, if you want to put on I'm working on a build, I've been working on a build for like the last 2 years for a fat bike. It's a single speed fat bike that I replaced out. I have a 3-speed built in that I want to put a Cyclone motor on, which would be, you know, over 3,000 watts. I wanted that chain ring to be, or that chain line to be perfect, but I still wanted to have some sort of transmission. So a 3-speed or a 5-speed by Sturmey Archer are considered heavy duty, is what I've read. Anything over than that, then you just got to be a little bit more careful with shifting. You got to be a little bit more diligent, make sure that you're not just full throttling it, and just, you know, just don't be careless, and these things will last. But so that's my insight into internally geared hub. Pros, cons, is it worth it for you? Actually, one more con is I think there's a little bit more drag on these. I feel like I don't coast nearly as much. Could just be because I have this bike way down. Look at all these sparkles I got on this thing. Speaker, I mean, a lot of this is like, it's a doomsday bike. So maybe that's why I'm not, my rolling resistance is not nearly as good. But my wife's bike, same bike, she just blows by me. So maybe it has rolling resistance. Anyway, so hopefully you guys like this. Hopefully somebody found this interesting. If you're thinking about going to an internally geared hub, just some things to keep in mind. I've been happy with it. I'm bummed that I broke the thing. So I'm just waiting for this to just stop shifting any day now. I just wish it had a bigger gear ratio, really. But other than that, I like internally geared hubs. I hate working on them, but I like having them. All right, thanks guys.